Hi focused friend, welcome to Hidden ADD, your #1 source for thriving at work and beyond if you are focus challenged like me. In today's video, we're going to cover the all-important topic of planning. Do you have trouble planning out your days, weeks, months, and so on? I always did, and what I found is that there's a trade-off between the complexity and how thorough the planning can be versus how easy and doable and therefore sustainable the planning process is. So in this video, I'll share with you the planning process that I've personally adopted and that I shared with this coaching client. And what this planning process really focuses on is simplicity or repeatability, as well as flexibility to take in new information as things change. So with that, let's get started. So what I'm going to cover is why planning systems fail, especially for us ADDers. 2, the straightforward and flexible planning system I've adopted. And 3, step through just more detail, some examples, that sort of thing. And as a side note, if you don't really care about the approach and the theory and the explanation, which I think is very important and valuable, but if you just want to see how I actually apply this planning process in my daily life, check out the associated ADD IRL video where I show you how I use this behind the scenes. But I hope you'll stick around here because the general thinking behind it is actually pretty important. So topic number 1. First thing is that we want to cover why planning processes fail. Because unless you understand why they tend to fail, there won't necessarily be an openness to a streamlined, flexible plan like I'm going to share with you. So the number 1 reason that planning processes fail, especially for us ADDers, is because they're simply too difficult. They're so big and complex. I've looked into a lot of them and I've tried a lot of them. I've tried the Stephen Covey time management approach. I've tried the David Allen getting things done, and I've tried a bunch of other ones in between. And the number 1 Achilles heel that I've seen in all those approaches for both myself and for people that I've coached is that they simply cover too many things. For instance, you'll plan goals in every area of your life on the wheel of life diagram. You then block out an hour and a half to 2 hours for a weekly review. And then you block out even more time for a monthly review, and then even more time for a quarterly review, and so on. And then what happens? Eventually, you stop using it. You miss one of your 20 or 30 minute daily planning sessions, or maybe you miss one of your hour and a half week planning sessions, and so on. Eventually, you at some point lose momentum on the planning process. And what's the value of an amazingly great, thorough planning process that doesn't get used? It's about as valuable as a perfect diet or any other plan that actually doesn't get implemented. So that's topic number 1, is that you're going to want to do the most thorough, complex system that you can find. However, the real measure of any planning system needs to simply be that you can execute it day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Which brings me to topic number 2, the planning process that I've adopted. There's another school of thought that some forward-thinking leaders encourage, which I'm gonna call minimalist planning. 2 great examples of this are Gary Keller in The One Thing and Dr. Benjamin Hardy in Personality Isn't Permanent. The planning process that Dr. Benjamin Hardy teaches is to have 1 keystone goal. Why 1? There's a massive psychological benefit to that level of focus. As humans, we tend to distract ourselves regularly. As things become more complex, we get overwhelmed, and then we avoid completely through TV and social media and alcohol and all sorts of things. Having 1 single goal eliminates the ambiguity. There's 1 primary focus. And the reason it's called keystone is because naturally other goals are needed to complete it. That 1 single goal, by definition, carries a whole bunch of other goals through with it. So if I have a goal to be a better public speaker and to be better at networking and all that, all of those would be subsumed if I had a keystone goal to say, launch my own business. The second reason goes into the 80-20 principle. If you're going to streamline down your planning process to the most important goal that you've got, you really are taking an 80-20 action. It's a high leverage action for a small amount of investment in planning time, you're pushing forward your most important goal, and because it's a keystone goal, it's driving other goals underneath it. So basically, it's the highest return on your planning investment. And the third reason for this minimalist planning approach is explained in Gary Keller's The One Thing. He co-founded the real estate giant Keller Williams Realty, and as CEO, he found he was doing a lot of coaching of his direct reports. And out of those coaching meetings or planning meetings, the individual would walk away with like 3 committed actions. I mean, frankly, 3 committed actions, that's not that many, right? It's not that big a deal. But what Keller noticed was that invariably, some of the things didn't get done. People would come to the follow-up meeting with him and say, okay, I didn't get everything done, but I got 2 out of 3 done. And he noticed this really funny trend. The one thing that didn't get done always tended to be the most valuable or important. But the reason that it doesn't get done when there's 2 or 3 other options to pursue is because usually the most valuable, most important, the goal that you desire most is also the hardest. It also puts you most out of your comfort zone. It's also the most ambiguous and can take more time and have more uncertainty than those other things on your list. And so he started only having 1 committed goal come out of those meetings. And it revolutionized the success that those people were having and ultimately his company. So let me just quickly give you an overview of the planning process. You start with this keystone goal. This is something that super drives you. So for me, my current keystone goal is to build a coaching and training side business. This keystone goal is your number 1 most important goal as a person over the next, say, 1 to 5 years. Then do some very high level planning. And what you'll find is that underneath that keystone goal, there are a number of supporting goals. So for my keystone goal of building a coaching and training side business, one of those sub goals is to build an audience, which I'm now doing through YouTube. Hi, thank you for being here. Next, you do a little bit of planning, just enough high level planning of the steps and the milestones to get to the keystone goal so that you can figure out where you need to be at the end of, say, 3 months, and therefore where you need to be at the end of 1 month. So in building this YouTube channel, I did a super high level year plan, and then a slightly lower level, but still very high level quarter plan. And my quarter plan was simply, I'm gonna get 60 videos up on the platform over the course of 3 months. I chose that as the goal because 1, it's 100% in my control to shoot the videos and get them live. 2, I knew I would learn through taking action. And 3, I could start to get audience feedback from people like you, what you like, what you don't, which would then inform where I need to go from here. From there, it breaks down to a very simple high-level monthly goal. So in this case, film 20 videos this month. So my weekly planning process now takes about 5 minutes on a Sunday, sometimes 10 minutes. All I do is identify what is it that I'm getting done this week on that top goal. So in general, it might work out to say 5 videos a week, although in practical application, which you can see more in my ADD IRL video on this same topic, some weeks look like 7 videos and others look like 2 or 3 videos while I have other work commitments or things I need to prioritize. And so let's say I've got the weekly goal to shoot 5 videos, then my daily planning process takes about 3 minutes, and I just look at what I've got coming up the next day and I figure out what it is I'm going to be doing. So that might break into one day I'm going to shoot 2 videos, another day I'm going to shoot 3 videos, and then the other days I have flexibility to prioritize other items, say in my full-time job, or something else that's supportive of my keystone goal. Maybe it's how I market my videos or get things more exposure. So I think the simplicity should be really clear to you. But the important thing is that this is a planning process or system that, 1, is actually repeatable and sustainable, especially for us ADDers. And 2, because you're focused on your most important goal, you're getting 60, 70, 80% of the benefit that you would get by planning out every little detail about, oh, I'm gonna call this friend and I'm gonna do this workout. That's just all a bunch of detail, unless your keystone goal is to work out more, etc. So that was the simplicity and the repeatability part, which, as I said before, is critical. Just because you have a great planning process, if you don't do it religiously every day, week, month, year, you might as well have none. And so if you're choosing between no planning and some planning that you can get done in 3 to 5 minutes a day, that's gonna get you 50, 60, 70, 80% of the most important stuff planned because it's your most important goal, it's a pretty good decision. The second thing I just want to highlight for you in this process so you really see the value of it is in its flexibility. What do I mean by the flexibility? What I mean is this. When I was a consultant at Deloitte, I was working in Australia, and for my project, we were developing a 3-year roadmap for a multi-billion-dollar telecommunications company. And as I'm slaving away at the final deliverable with one of the directors, he says to me, "You know what's funny is that 6 months from now, this roadmap is gonna be bullshit." Innocent confused me. He's like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, too many things change over the course of 3 or 6 months. New information comes in, priorities shift, the market shifts, leadership positions shift. So no one can actually predict out a planning process and roadmap that far out." And the same applies to personal goal planning and life planning. Yes, I could have made a detailed year plan for this YouTube channel, month by month, planning everything out. But I don't know what new information I'm gonna get once I finish my 60th video. I'm already starting to do different series on the channels, change things around. I'm talking much more from my own personal experience and also letting you in behind the scenes with the new ADD IRL series. And frankly, I'm learning what I enjoy about the process, what I want to do, because this is something that I want to bring value to you. And for me to sustainably do that, I need to feel authentic and enjoy the process. So I'm getting great data over the course of month 1, month 2, month 3 as I film these videos, which will then inform what I want to plan in future months. Likewise, if your keystone goal were, say, some elaborate diet, you could make a 3-month detailed week-by-week plan. But the reality is that once you actually start doing the diet, after a couple weeks, you're gonna know what foods are realistic, what isn't, what workout schedule you're willing to maintain, and so on. And so that's where this planning process really thrives. Yes, do a high-level plan, do an overall approach. Guesstimate where you want to be in month 1 and month 3, but don't plan out how you're going to get there in any more detail than you need simply to come up with roughly where you think you should be so that you maintain your progress on your keystone goal. So the monthly goal planning is a great example of that. My plan for this channel was to shoot 20 videos a month for month 1, 2, and 3. In month 2, however, last month, I decided to prioritize a 45 Days to Awakening meditation challenge that took several hours every single day. In effect, that actually became my monthly goal, and the YouTube videos backburnered. So last month, I only did around 8 videos total. And here's the great thing. So a traditional planning thing would say, well, that means that you went off target, that you strayed and such. But the reality is, for my keystone goal of building a coaching and training side business, this 45 Days to Awakening meditation challenge was something that I saw was directly contributory towards that goal. I explain a little bit more about why it was contributory in the ADD-IRL video on this same planning process topic, but nonetheless, this planning system let me easily insert a different monthly focus without losing steam in my overall ability to consistently plan and execute on my highest priority goal at the time. So what do you think of this minimalist 80-20 planning process? Have you found something better that you've used? Let me and the other viewers know in the comments below. And if you'd like to see how I actually implement this planning process, check out the associated ADD IRL video on the planning process, where you can see my exact systems, behind the scenes, my exact planning board, how I'm doing this. I got a bunch of new exciting videos queued up, everything from how to explain ADD to others, good analogies that you can use, as well as other behind the scenes ADD IRL videos, as well as things about exercise and a whole bunch of other things. So if you don't want to miss these, just subscribe and click the bell and you'll get notified as soon as these cool topics are released. Thanks so much for joining, Focus Friend, and I will see you in the next video.